The diplomatic quarters aboard station Kepler-7 hummed with the soft whir of life support systems, a sound Mara Ellison had grown accustomed to over her 3 years as Earth's cultural liaison. She stood before the viewport, watching the swirling nebula beyond paint the darkness in shades of violet and amber, when the door chimed. "Enter," she called, turning from the cosmic display. The door slid open with a pneumatic hiss, revealing a sight that made Mara's heart skip despite her diplomatic training. Rexel, the young Felixar ambassador in training, stood in the doorway, his tri-colored fur rippling with what she'd learned to recognize as nervous anticipation. His species bore an uncanny resemblance to Earth's domestic cats, though they stood upright on digitigrade legs and possessed six-fingered paws capable of remarkable dexterity. His large, luminous eyes, one amber, one green, blinked at her with characteristic heterochromia common among his kind. "Ambassador Ellison," Rexel began, his voice carrying that peculiar purring undertone that marked all Felixar speech. "I have been studying human customs, and I have a request that may seem unusual." Mara smiled warmly, gesturing for him to enter. At barely 4 Earth years old, equivalent to a human teenager in Felixar development, Rexel represented the first generation of his species to grow up knowing humanity existed. His curiosity about Earth culture had been endearing since his arrival 2 months ago. "Nothing's too unusual, Rexel. What can I do for you?" The cat cub's tail swished uncertainly behind him. "In my research of human social bonding rituals, I discovered a food item that appears in 87.3% of your species' friendship formation scenarios. I have calculated that experiencing this food might help me better understand human diplomatic approaches." He paused, his whiskers twitching. "I wish to try pizza." Mara couldn't suppress her laugh, a warm, genuine sound that made Rexel's ears perk forward. Of all the human customs he might have studied, pizza had captured his academic attention. It was so perfectly earnest, so typically Rexel. "You've been doing your homework," she said, moving to her console. "I think that's a wonderful idea. What kind would you like?" Rexel's eyes widened, and his tail stood straight up, a sign of surprise. "There are variations?" "Oh, Rexel." Mara pulled up the station's food synthesizer menu, projecting the holographic display between them. "There are hundreds of variations. That's part of what makes pizza so human. We take something simple and make it infinitely complex." For the next 20 minutes, Mara explained the intricacies of pizza construction. Thin crust versus thick, the tomato sauce debate, the cheese varieties, the endless topping possibilities. Rexel absorbed every detail with the intense focus his species was famous for, occasionally asking questions that revealed a deeper understanding of human psychology than Mara had expected. "So the pizza becomes a reflection of individual preference," Rexel mused, "yet it remains a communal food, shared among groups. The customization allows for personal expression while the sharing enforces social bonding. Fascinating." "Exactly," Mara said, impressed. "So what speaks to you?" After careful consideration, Rexel requested a combination that made Mara smile. Pepperoni, mushrooms, and, after she explained they were safe for Felixar digestion, anchovies. A cat choosing fish. Some instincts, it seemed, transcended species. She placed the order through the station's human quarter synthesis unit, designed to replicate Earth foods with remarkable accuracy. In 20 minutes, the delivery drone would arrive. They settled into comfortable chairs, and Mara found herself answering Rexel's questions about Earth. Not the standard diplomatic queries about resources and territory, but genuine curiosity about why humans sang in the shower, why they kept pets, why they told jokes. "Your species seems to find joy in impractical things," Rexel observed, his tail curling contentedly around his feet. "The Felixar Council finds this inefficient, but I find it intriguing." "Maybe that's our superpower," Mara said softly. "We make time for impractical joy." The door chimed. Mara retrieved the pizza box, an authentic cardboard container, because even in space some traditions mattered, and brought it to the low table between them. When she opened the lid, the aroma of melted cheese, spiced meat, and tomato sauce filled the room. Rexel's nose twitched, his pupils dilating to dark pools. He leaned forward, his scientific curiosity giving way to something more primal, more immediate. Mara slid a slice onto a plate designed for Felixar use and passed it to him. In human tradition, she said, the first bite is the most important. Don't analyze it, just experience it. Rexel lifted the slice with both paws, examining it briefly before following her instruction. He bit into the pointed end, his sharp teeth easily cutting through the layers of cheese and toppings. Mara watched as his eyes closed, as his ears flattened in what she learned was Felixar contentment, as a deep, rumbling purr resonated from his chest. He chewed slowly, thoroughly, his tail beginning a gentle swaying motion. When he swallowed, his eyes opened, and Mara saw something she'd never witnessed in any Felixar before. Pure, uncomplicated delight. Delicious, Rexel breathed, and the word carried such wonder that Mara felt her throat tighten with unexpected emotion. It is perfect. The salt, the fat, the umami from the anchovies, the textural contrast. He stopped himself, shaking his head. No, that is analysis. The truth is simpler. He looked at her, his mismatched eyes bright. This makes me happy. I understand now why humans share this. Then they ate together in companionable silence, the young Felixar working through his slice with careful appreciation, while Mara enjoyed her own. Between bites, Rexel asked about pizza's history, about regional variations, about the social protocols surrounding its consumption. But mostly he just ate, experiencing something humans had enjoyed for centuries. Ambassador Ellison, Rexel said as they finished, his voice formal despite the tomato sauce on his whiskers. I came here to study human diplomatic strategies, but I think I have learned something more important. What's that? Your species has traveled the stars, built impossible technologies, survived wars and disasters, but you still make time for pizza. You still prioritize small joys. His tail swished thoughtfully. The Felixar Council sees humanity as unpredictable, even dangerous, because you do not follow pure logic. But perhaps that is not a weakness. Mara leaned forward, sensing the weight behind his words. What will you tell them? That humans are terrifying not because they are illogical, but because they have found a way to balance logic with joy, efficiency with meaning, survival with celebration. Rexel's purr deepened. Any species that can turn grain, tomatoes, and cheese into a ritual of friendship, any species that can make something so simple feel so profound, that is a species that will endure. He stood, giving her a formal bow that was distinctly Felixar, then added a very human gesture he must have practiced. A thumbs up, executed with his six-fingered paw. Thank you for the pizza, Mara. It was delicious. After he left, Mara returned to her viewport, looking out at the stars where dozens of species made their homes, each with their own ways and customs. But tonight, one young Felixar was lying in his quarters, his belly full of pizza, composing a report about humanity that would be read across the galaxy. And somewhere in that report, Mara knew, would be a single, simple truth. Humans knew how to live, not just survive. They knew that sometimes the most diplomatic thing you could do was share a meal, laugh at yourself, and find joy in the impractical. That perhaps was humanity's greatest strength, not their weapons or their technology, but their stubborn insistence that life should be delicious. And Rexel, the cat cub who asked for pizza, understood.